Hello everybody and welcome to the British Pint. My name is Christoph and today we are doing a very special commercial beer tasting. The last beer tasting that I did, Fuller's Golden Pride vs Vintage Ale, didn't get that much attention, but I think with this one I can really show you special stuff also about aging, but in a very unique way. And so today we're tasting the former Gales Prize Old Ale, last year's Dark Star Prize Old Ale, and this year's Meantime Prize Old Ale. I think it's still called Dark Star, but it's brewed now by Meantime Brewery. So I got this bottle almost exactly a year ago, and I will be uploading this video on the day that the new selling starts for this year's batch, just because I never really got around to drinking this one because it's such a precious thing that I didn't want to do it just, you know, on a whim. I didn't want to drink it before being ready to film it. I didn't know how to really go about with the filming, so I think the occasion is really a nice thing that we can work with. Now, this beer last year was promoted only by Martin Cornell's blog, zerophile.co.uk, where he really demanded people to haggle Fuller's and Asahi and the brewery Dark Star, anyone you could get, to really get them to sell this a lot and notice how well this can be selling. Because a proper old ale, like it was brewed almost 100 years ago, is, actually this year I think it's the 100th birthday. So nowadays when you say old ale, you just mean anything that has been lying around for some time, clean in a sterile keg and so on, and it has gone the normal aging, which introduces some very small sherry notes and stuff like that. With this system, it's a brewing system where you keep using a bit of the old brew that contains a lot of complex bacteria, wild yeast, all this stuff that has been growing over time from the oak vats that were used for it, and they keep using the same liquid again for the next batch, because in there you have the bacteria, and this is called a Solera system because it's used in sherry, in those sherries that are brewed by Solera style. So the tricky thing is that if you want to taste something like that, you can't just taste it on its own. I think you have to classify it somehow, compare it to something that is known, and so that is why today I'm using the Trachea Jacobite Ale as a comparison. This is quite easily obtainable in Germany at the moment. So nice Scottish old ale, but I think not necessarily in the sense that they are using with wild yeast, Brettanomyces, Lactobacillus or whatever. I'm not so sure. I tried the Trachea Ale before. It was a bit different to normal ale, but not that much, and with this one I'm expecting something that is fantastic and incredibly unique. This can only be compared to beers like Rodenbach Grand Cru. That is the stuff that goes away for hundreds of pounds a bottle, or euros, dollars, whatever, and this one was just a few quid and you could buy the bottles. Now, I joined Martin Cornell's call and also haggled everybody I could find about releasing this, and so I was aware of the one day when the shopping was available and it immediately sold out. So I think you bought it from Fuller's last year. This year it will be available over the Dark Star Brewing website. I will put the link down in the description. I wanted to put the link to the blog entry from last year, but it turns out that just when I'm filming this today, so 2 weeks ago when you will be seeing this, that Martin Cornell put out a new article that explains the whole history of all of the different varieties of brews, how it all happened in the past and everything, so I really don't need to say that much about it. Read the link, the text in the description. It's really great text, summarizes everything, even gives you different recipes over time. So I could also tell you that they rebottled some of these last year for a second day. It immediately sold out as well, and I was really lucky to get some of these and send them to friends, because shipping only within the UK, that is how the Fuller's shop works. I'm not sure about the Dark Star shop, maybe only that. No idea if that will be widely available. It might be, though, that Asahi is doing a bit more publicity, because this article by Martin Cornell was done in cooperation with Asahi, and so there might be more bottles available this year. We'll see. And I have no idea whether these will be available in the US. They will be available on draft in London, and I'm so disappointed I can't really get there. But apparently a few pubs are named in Martin's article, and you really should get there and try this one from a hand pump. Yeah, amazing stuff. So I got this one in end of January, and it has been sitting in my fridge, so that is all fine. This is not normally when you buy a beer and then drink it a year afterwards, this would be a disaster and really all the flavor would be gone. But for this beer, it's barely really the age that you are intended to drink it. Easily wait 15 years. I have 6 bottles, so I will maybe open another one next year and then see how long I will wait with the last one. And of course, with the sediment that is in here, you could do your own Solera system and recreate this one. So that is something that you might be interested in. For that you would need just the recipe that you can find on Martin Cornell's website. Get the normal Gales yeast, that is yeast 1332. By the way, when this one came out last year, there was a podcast on the Brewing Network. I can link that also in the description below, where they discussed the creation of last year's brew. And there, they just said, oh yeah, Gales yeast that came originally from Whitbread, so let's use yeast 1099, which is of course a horrible decision. The yeast has been used so much, it really has created it's a strain on its own, and you need to have the proper yeast and not just any Whitbread yeast. Please don't do that. Yeast 1332 is Gales yeast. I've recreated beers with that before. You can check them out here in the small icon that appears in the corner. Do that, please. So yeah, so the age of this 1 year is not a problem. It is being matured for 3 months before it's even bottled, so that is all part of the story. Let's start now with the Jacobite Ale, because I really want to see what this is like. So while pouring, I can tell you that the Jacobite Ale, I was really amazed by the Tracker House Ale. This is even a bit stronger. It's about 8%, 8.0%. I have the data of this in my Real Ale Almanac. So this is a Scottish brewery that is doing very traditional brews. Jacobite Ale, at least in the 90s, used to be made with 2% roast barley, 5% crystal malt. So that's a bit different from the Tracker House Ale. The rest is Halcyon Pale Malt, at least it was back then. East Kent Golding hops. And they also use freshly ground coriander seeds. Quite interesting. So let's see what that smells and tastes like. Oh wow, and straight away we get this vinous Old Ale quality that is really different to many beers. I think you can get the similar smell when you just let a very strong ale age for a year. But it's very complex and not at all sharp, not at all biting in any way, just really mellow and intense. It smells like dark dried fruits, prunes, damson, just raisins, cherries. Yeah, very similar to my old ale that I actually did with added fruit. I keep repeating that whenever I try an old ale that's commercially available. There's also some chocolatey notes in there, so it does smell a bit roasty, even though it's just 2% roasted barley. And there's also some burnt toffee, which is actually quite prominent because the mixture just makes it feel like it's actually burnt toffee and not just burnt notes, and then a bit of toffee from the caramel. Nice. Delicious. Wow, quite sweet because it's so strong, that makes sense. Even a yeast with a proper good attenuation will have difficulties eating through that large amount of dextrins. And they give a very full mouthfeel, very strong. It has a strong warming character that is on the tongue and the back of the mouth just because of the high alcohol content. Flavor is just like the smell but a bit more fruity. I don't taste anything roasty or maybe slightly chocolatey with a, yeah, if you really focus on it. But tons of fruit, tons of dried fruit really gives that old age character that is so prominent. But if I compare this now to the Fuller's Vintage Ale, I find this one much more pleasing because it's far less sweet. For some reason, for me, the Vintage Ale was sweeter than the fresh Golden Pride. And I think this is actually, yeah, I like this even more than last time I had the Tracker House Ale, which tasted slightly sour to me, but that might have been because I'd been tasting sweet Burton ales before that. So this one is really nice, very wine-like. I would actually be able to sell this off as a red wine to most people. It's really reddish, nice reflex, you know, these lights shining through. Quite beautiful, really nicely done. Yeah, I think that's a really good basis to start with, and then we can go to this one. You might see that this one has this artificial wax on top of it, which is apparently a lot of an issue when you have to redo the whole bottling after the first day because everything is sold out immediately. Oh man, the SD card was full and I didn't notice, so I was drinking and describing it and nothing was recorded. Luckily I think where it left off. So the recipe that this used to be was Maris Otter Pale Malt 88%, 2% black malt and 10% sugar. Now in that brew last year they also used Maris Otter, but in the newer one they used just a standard English pale malt. Back then they used, well, they didn't specify the sugar, but there are some sources saying it was glucose syrup. There have been other sugars that have been used in the past. This one was made with #1 invert sugar, and the one for this year will be #2 invert sugar. They didn't get anything different back then, and this year they had a bit of a choice, so they went for the darker one. Then 90 units of color. I think this is still down to the spec, 53 IBU. OG is 1092, so that's a lot of original gravity. Fuggle hops for bitterness and aroma goldings for aroma. I think that's still the same, but you might want to check the blog, the article by Martin Cornell. Okay, yeah, actually the recipe is different in that they are nowadays using torrefied wheat. I might have said that before the camera stopped. So you will see a lot of foam here. I've been talking for half an hour and there's still a bit of foam on there. So let's just refill a bit and see if I can go through the steps again that I just did to myself. Yeah, you focus yourself so much on talking to yourself when you stand in front of the camera that it's really disappointment if the camera doesn't listen. Yeah, so the smell is to me quite clean compared to this one. It's a very fruity sour cherry smell. Really just that. There are very subtle undertones which are much weaker, so they're less noticeable. Of yeah, a bit of malt, bit of hops, but very subtle really. And there's a bit of a smell that I remember from a Brettanomyces beer that I did before. So that is definitely in there. Let's check the flavor. So when I tried this first a few minutes ago, I was really surprised by how simple it seems to be. But actually when you drink more, and I noticed that on the second sip, this is now the third one, that there are not any single strong aromas in the flavor, but there are many, many layers of different aromas and flavors that come through, and you really have to be quick to catch them because they're interchanging very quickly. So you notice a bit of fruit, like sour cherry on the tip of your tongue, then come a lot of malt flavors, which is probably the Maris Otter coming through there. Really intense sweetness, honey-like, but also biscuity. This one is I know Maris Otter, it's really like maltiness fully. Very sweetish, whereas other malts like Golden Promise are a bit more biscuity. This one is very sweetish, bit of biscuitiness, really honey-like, sweet malt. When you try wort unbittered, then that is definitely similar. And then you have all these different kind of things. There's a bit of leather, Brettanomyces thing. Maybe it's a bit of horse blanket, but really, really thin. More leather, I would say. There is lots of very swift caramel tones going in and out. So not something that is really there where I can say, oh yeah, this caramel note, what it reminds me of. It's just like, oh, there's a bit gone. Then the next one comes off. And so really difficult to pin down, in my opinion. And that also fits the descriptions very well, because in the descriptions I was always confused that there are so many words. How can you have so many flavors in there? But it's really in there. Yeah, also warming, like the other one, but really just, I again tasted different things this time. This time it was a bit more tingly on the tongue. It's like a fruit beer where you have a bit of sourness in the end, but this is more maybe lactic acid, I would say. I don't taste it like acetic acid, which is more sharp and something you notice individually. This is more just like a nice part of a bit of sourness, but it comes right after a very sweet flavor from the malt. So that's why it's so difficult to pick up. Amazing. I don't notice any hop bitterness, but with this one either. I think they're very strong beers, and 53 IBU is really not much for a 9% beer. 9% ABV is what it has when it's being brewed. Maybe I said that before, but it can go up to 11% ABV. And also the amount of foam that you get here is because this one has been overcarbing for a year basically, so it is more carbonated than initially, and the alcohol content will have gone up. And that's just all the wild yeast and stuff working in there. Yeah. Alright, so I don't know exactly if anything that I said during the unrecorded stuff is missing now. I might just add a bit of text at the end of the video if there's anything missing. I really see myself drinking this in front of a fireplace on a nice winter evening. Amazing beer, really nice drinkability, and this is not different in that quality, but it's a very different kind of beer. This one really tastes like a normal beer that is strong and malty, and old in the terms of a normal aging where you get sherry and dry fruit, but in a much more simpler way. I find this makes the beer really complex already, but this one takes this to another level. So you have all these different flavors that are really difficult to catch, and I think if I drink this bottle and have a notepad and just write every flavor impression that I get, I will fill quite a lot of space. So this is just another class. This is probably why this Rodenbach stuff is so expensive and works for wine drinkers and so on, because they can really appreciate this stuff. While this might be off-putting to some people who do not like the leathery flavor, the slight hose blanket or acidic flavors, all these things that you might not want in your classic beer or your sweet malty thing that you are used to. So yeah, really something else. I also understand why everybody who has worked with this is loving it, as it's written in Martin's article, and why the people from the sales team initially at Fuller's, they really didn't like this because they're expecting something, you know, like this sweet and so on. They were also probably used to Fuller's beers, and this is very different from a Fuller's beer. I also like the aged flavors much more than in the vintage ale, because in the vintage ale it was still too sweet, actually sweeter in perception than in the Golden Pride that was unaged. So with aging, you started getting sweetish esters or whatever that is. And here, because there's a sourness that's being created, this is incredibly well balanced. It's much easier to keep drinking. This one is on the edge, I would say, but also nicer than the Fuller stuff. I think I said it when I tasted this one, that it's better than the Fuller stuff. Yeah, this is really amazing beer. So if you can, especially if you're living in the UK, make sure that you go ahead and check out the website. See if you can get this one on the 16th of November. If you're outside the UK, this might be a bit more difficult. You might be able to get this outside the UK depending on how Dark starts shipping, but I don't think it's the case. Check the website either way. And I told the guys in Düsseldorf in the craft beer shop that they need to get this, but I'm not sure if they can pick up on that in such short notice. And they might also not trust just my judgment. All right. With that, I would keep it as a concise tasting, a bit complicated with the recording issues, sorry about that. And then, yeah, if you like this one, go for this one, definitely, it's amazing beer. I still have 5 bottles left, so I will probably drink the next one next year and then see if I have one bottle that is fine 15 years on, maybe even longer for the last one. We'll see. Alright, so see you for the next beer, brewing or tasting. Who knows what's going to come next? I'm not sure yet. There's lots of stuff I want to brew, but I need to find the time. Same as I had troubles with this one, finding the time. Yeah, and then I would say see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.